All right. Welcome to our April 2024 local food virtual town hall. Glad to see everyone here. I know the joining is maybe a tiny bit slower today because we switched our registration system into Zoom. And so in the interest of letting folks kind of get logged in and get going, we're going to change up our opening here just a little bit as far as that goes. So I'm Rebecca McMahon. I'm the Local Food System Program Administrator for K-State Research and Extension. And on behalf of our entire local food team, we want to thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's town hall. Today, we are featuring updates from several different groups that we hope are of interest to you or others in your community. Looking at our agenda, we have uh, 4 lightning presentations on the agenda. The Kansas Food Action Network will be sharing a legislative update. The Urban Food Systems Program at K-State Olathe will be providing a program update. The Kansas Black Farmers Association will be sharing about some of their current initiatives, and KC Healthy Kids will share an overview of the results from their recent report on the KC regional food system. After our 4 lightning presentations, then we will have some time for questions. So we'll talk about that when we get closer. And then I will be providing an overview of our long-awaited results from our local food community roundtables. And then at the end, as always, we open it up for announcements and discussion. So I know that several of you have had lots of new and exciting things happening over the past few months. So be prepared to either unmute and share or pop things in the chat as we get to that part of the meeting. So I know that there are some of you that are brand new to these town halls and many of you that have attended in the past. So we want to start by doing a quick poll that help us evaluate and understand your participation. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that. So go ahead and respond to those polls. So the first question is just asking if you've attended one of these town halls in the past. And if you've attended more than one time, one other time, if this is your first time, or we understand there's a lot of different online meetings. And so if you're not quite sure, that is perfectly okay as well. And then the second question is the part of the state of Kansas that you live in to kind of help us understand and get a feel for where folks are attending from. Once you've completed your poll questions, if you would put your name, your location, either city or county, and your organizational or business affiliation, if any, into the chat. That is a great way to help connect you with others that are attending and for everyone to have a little bit of a better idea of who's participating today. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll and show you the results. So it looks like about half of us have attended more than one town hall, and a little bit over half have attended at least once. And then several of you are brand new to our town halls, so welcome to all of our new participants. The part of Kansas that we all live in. So we have the most from the northeast part of the state, some north central, some south central, no one claiming southwest. So we're still on a quest to include our southwest participation. and a few from Southeast, and then several that are living in another state. So welcome to all of you as well. Okay. So the next up on our agenda for today is our lightning presentations, and we are starting off with a legislative update and a State Food Policy Council update from Eileen Horn and the Kansas Food Action Network. So Eileen, I'd like to invite you to unmute, and I'll pass the microphone over to you.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Rebecca. Hi, everybody. It's so good to see many of you again. My name is Eileen Horn. I'm the policy lead for the Kansas Food Action Network. And I'm going to provide a pretty high-level overview today of some things we were watching this session and the bills that made it through the sausage grinder of the session that are related to food. So Rebecca, you want to go to the next slide? Okay, so this is super high level, but the 2024 legislative session was dominated by a couple key features, lots of discussion of tax proposals. Historically, in the last couple of years, Kansas has run a budget surplus, and so there's a lot of interest from legislators in returning those dollars to taxpayers. So we saw a whole bunch of tax proposals this session. As is typical, a lot of wrangling over the state budget because that is one of the primary functions of the legislature. And also some what we used to call postcard votes, because legislators, every single senator and representative are up for re-election this fall. And so there's always a lot of kind of social issue votes and things that come up because folks are gearing up for re-election and thinking about how to position themselves as such. So timeline wise, the legislature is on a break, but they come back on Friday. So they've been back home in their districts through most of April, and they're going to wrap up. They call it the veto session, and that's going to happen Friday through next Tuesday. So they'll be back and they will deal with kind of a lot of outstanding issues still. The two big picture items that are going to dominate the veto session include final passage of a K-12 budget bill. I think that they had consensus, but they just didn't pass it before the veto session. So I think that hopefully is a simpler issue. The big one that everyone is holding their breath about is the tax plan. So a tax plan was sent to Governor Kelly before they left on April 6th. It was kind of some high drama in those final hours for those of you who watch the legislature closely. It is awaiting her veto or signature, and it's actually today that she has to make that decision. So the latest word as of 5 minutes ago from our lobbyist is that she hasn't made the decision yet. So she has till today, basically, to either veto that bill or sign it. What's interesting about this bill is it ended up being a pretty solid compromise because it reduces income tax rates, which was a goal of many in legislative leadership, from 3 tiers to 2 tiers, and it lowers the overall rates for both of those tiers. It, for our interest, it ends the state sales tax on food July 1st, which is about 6 months faster than was planned. Eliminates tax on Social Security and increases standard deductions and exemptions. The analysis I've read from this is that it's pretty good for low-income families, and some of the advocates that we work with are definitely relieved it's not the flat tax that they were talking about early in the session. But Governor Kelly doesn't love it because it could have she's a real budget nerd, as she calls herself, and she's worried about it actually declining state revenues too precipitously, and I think there are other concerns, but so we'll see what she does today. That's big picture for the session. So Rebecca, can you go to the next slide? There were a whole bunch of food related bills this session, and some we were excited about and some we were not so excited about. We worked hard on a farm to school budget proviso that didn't make it out. We also were watching some of the discussion in the House Committee on Welfare Reform that were proposing additional restrictions on SNAP that we were not excited about. But the ones on this slide are the key issues that survived the legislative process and are likely to become law if they haven't yet. So the first one is super exciting. We now have a farm to food bank program established at the Kansas Department of Agriculture. This builds off of the work of the LFPA program, which came out of COVID dollars and was administered through USDA and KDA. So it builds on that and actually creates state funding for that program. So we have $900,000 in the next fiscal year budget, and it passed the House and Senate, and the governor should approve in coming days. It's wrapped up in the mega budget bill, so it's a minor piece of the entire state budget. But it's exciting to see because those federal dollars, as you all know, are declining, and we're excited to see the state investing in farm to food bank programs. The sales tax on food, like I said, could be eliminated 6 months earlier than planned if the governor signs the tax package that she has in front of her. So that would accelerate the end of the food sales tax to July 1st. And so for those of you who interact with farmers markets, this could have a big impact and would require a lot of communication with those vendors, because that would be a mid-season change for them. And then two more that are of interest that passed. One has to do with agritourism activities. Basically, it just clarifies that if you have an agritourism operation, that just because you sell hot cocoa or ornaments or you do events, that does not kick you into a commercial tax category, but you still remain in an agricultural tax classification, which is good because that is a lower rate. So that was protective of agritourism operators. And then custom meat processing services are now tax exempt. So this is really exciting for folks who are doing really small, like single animal custom meat processing. They no longer have to pay taxes on that. And so that's also in consideration, and that's awaiting the governor's approval as well. So a lot of stuff is going to get decided today and this week, but these four are very likely to make it through the gauntlet of the session. Okay, and next slide is a super exciting announcement. Rebecca, how much time do I have? Do I have like a minute left? 30 seconds?
Let's call it 30 seconds.
All right, I'm gonna go fast. So we are so excited. The Kansas Food Action Network is gonna launch a statewide food policy council, and the first meeting will occur in mid-June. As you know, we work to support the local government level and coalition level food policy councils across the state, and we're so excited that there are a bunch of stakeholders who are interested in creating a state level food policy council with us. So we're convening this summer. Representatives are from across the food system. And the ask I have for you all is that our 2024 work with the State Food Policy Council will really be around building wisdom and knowledge across the members of the council. So if you all have a report like Rebecca's going to present today, or reports that you all have been working on, or just resources that you think a state level food policy council focused on state policy should know about, if you could please put that in the chat, that'd be great. I'm trying to compile guest speakers and presentations and things for them to help ground them in their coming work. So thank you so much for the time. I appreciate the opportunity to give the update.
Thanks, Eileen. So again, as Eileen said, if you have comments or if you have questions about anything that Eileen presented, feel free to put that in the chat and we'll get back to those at the end of our lightning presentations. So our next speaker is Semra Fedohovich with the Urban Food Systems Initiative at K-State Olathe. So Semra, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And Eileen, that was a really great update. I really appreciate that. So today I'm talking to you all about the Urban Food Systems Initiative at Kansas State University. UFSI is an interdisciplinary collaboration by students, faculty, extension, community, and industry who are focused on developing sustainable urban food systems that are inclusive, resilient, safe, and diverse. You can think of the initiative as having kind of 4 pillars. So there's the transdisciplinary research and collaborations. We have our graduate programs, which are master's and certificate options that I'll talk about. We provide extension and outreach to support farm development. This is primarily through our Growing Growers program, which I'll also go into a little bit more detail about. And then we have our biennial Urban Food Systems Symposium. Next slide. So why are urban food systems important and what do we mean? I think with this slide, what I really want to get at is that when we talk about urban food systems, we're talking about urban, peri-urban, and rural communities because everyone is benefiting from urban areas. And it was interesting when you did the poll that, you know, Kansas is, most of the population lives in urban areas, and that trend is continuing to increase. So both urban, peri-urban, rural communities and food systems influence one another. Agriculture within cities cannot feed a dense population. We need to rely on these. So what we envision is a food system that transcends the urban-rural spectrum and is resilient to social and environmental change. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we have various graduate programs in urban food systems. Our core kind of program that we started with in 2009 was the Master of Science in Horticulture with an emphasis in urban food systems. And within that program, we now provide 2 tracks, a thesis track for a more traditional student conducting research. And then we have a professional track, which we have seen a lot of growth in over the past couple of years. This track is really tailored to working food systems professionals. We have current students, some are on this call, which I'm excited to see, but people working in extension, nonprofit, consulting, even industry with various types of horticultural production styles and methods. And the other thing I want to point out is that we recently launched the Interdisciplinary Graduate Certificate in Urban Food Systems, which is half of a master's, a 1-year program typically. And all of these programs offer a lot of versatility. They can be completed fully online, or there are hybrid options or in-person options. So I just really want to emphasize the flexibility of these programs and, you know, our desire to be very inclusive. And I love that Amanda just messaged because she's a graduate of our program in the early days, actually. Click again, Rebecca. Yeah, I just wanted to do a quick plug because as a part of the program, graduate students coordinate a series of webinars called Gaining Ground. And our next one is actually next week on Wednesday at 10 a.m. Where we will have Dr. Laura Stan, who's in Romania, but was a fellow here at our campus, and David Friesen of BKC talking about the importance of bees and biodiversity of insects in urban areas. Next slide. So thinking about some of the research that's done within urban food systems, as I mentioned, we're transcending just this urban area. It's very interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary. I think this diagram created by Dr. Rivard and Eleni shows, you know, some of the different aspects that food systems research and work touches on. We currently have a very large internal K-State grant that we refer to as GRIP, which stands for Game Changing Research and Innovation Program. Within that grant, we're really looking at how we can evaluate urban food systems within 4 different focus areas, which are agricultural productivity, community health, environmental sustainability, and food system resiliency. This research and this project is being conducted by 12 graduate research assistants and 22 faculty across 15 different departments within the university. So just kind of sharing some of the scale and the different areas that our research touches on. Next slide. So then we have our Urban Food Systems Biennial Symposium. This year, it is hosted by The Ohio State University, and the symposium brings together a national and international audience of academic, nonprofit, government, and research-oriented professionals to discuss and share ideas and successes of urban food systems. So as you can see, the date is here, June 11th through 13th in Columbus, Ohio. And a quick plug that in 2026, it will return to Kansas City again. Next slide. And then the last program that I want to talk about as a part of the Urban Food Systems Initiative is Growing Growers. This year, we are entering the 20th growing season of the Growing Growers program. We've already entered it. Growing Growers is a beginning farmer apprenticeship program where we pair apprentices with host farms. The apprentices engage in hands-on farm work at a host farm. They receive access to a 12-month extensive online course that was developed in 2023. And then they attend a series of in-person workshops, events, and farm tours. The online course has allowed us to shift some of our focus this year and in the coming years to expanding the program. So we've been meeting with different partners in both Kansas and Missouri to think about how this program could be expanded further east and west. So if you or anyone you know is interested in discussing bringing this program to your community, you can feel free to reach out to me. My email is semra@ksu.edu, and I can drop that in the chat. And that's all I have. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Semra. So again, put your questions for Semra in the chat, and I will turn it over to Ingrid Perez Esquivel with the Kansas Black Farmers Association. Ingrid, over to you.
Hello, friends. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see my face because my camera is not cooperating this morning, but I am with Kansas Black Farmers Association. I am here on behalf of the organization to talk about some of the cool things that we've been working on over in Nicodemus and across the state of Kansas. Next slide, please. So really quickly, what is the mission of Kansas Black Farmers Association? It's really to preserve the legacy of farming within minority spaces, and figuring out how we can continue to help us thrive through the changes that we are experiencing with climate and life. Next slide, please. So these are some of the projects that we have been working on this quarter. We've done a lot of farm tours. We've done a lot more development and training and programs, and we have a really cool upcoming summer farm program that summer camp, excuse me, that we are preparing for. So wanted to highlight some of those things. Next slide. So some of the farm tours we've been trying to focus on highlighting our membership, and one of the ways that we have been doing that is to get more of our membership involved in learning more about other memberships. And so one of the ways that we've done that is doing farm tours. We had the opportunity in February, about mid to late February, to host the representative Sharice Davids to one of our members' farms, the Adams Farm out in Shawnee, Kansas. So we got to explore a lot of the cool things that she has going on. They have a bee farm. They used to have bees, and talking to the things that they want to do with urban farming. So it was really nice to be able to host a representative and hear some of the things that we would like to see and some of the challenges that urban farmers in the state of Kansas are experiencing. Next slide. And most recently, last month, we took a tour to Bar H Fresh Farms. This is a really, really interesting farm. It spans over 4 generations of farming wisdom. Some of the products that they sell or produce are poultry, eggs, and meats for chickens, along with all sorts of different various fruits and vegetables. If you go onto their website, they also have a shopping section, so you can also shop locally with them as well. So that is something that we've been trying to highlight, is getting more exposure to our farmers to the membership. Next slide. And these are just some cool, fun photos that we took in collection as well, in collaboration with Bugs. So we were able to get some other folks from across the city to come out and be present and learn more about urban farming and some of the challenges that exist in urban farming in the state. Next slide. Trainings and programs. So these are some of the 3 things that we have been trying to focus on when it comes to training and what our membership has been asking of us. So what you see here is a flyer for the enrollment for the summer camp. Next slide. we were able to participate and open up to the membership thanks to K-State Research and Extension and that this collaboration that we have with KBFA to start promoting some of these free activities and certifications for our membership. So I was able to be a part of the FSMA PSA training and learned a whole lot of what it means to produce food locally and be able to participate in some of those programs. Next slide. And so again, this is another flyer. So if you all have any young people that are interested in the summer camp and want to learn more about farming and being out in the field, they're going to do fishing and horseback riding and all those fun things. If that's something that is interesting and it sounds like it would be something that you'd want to participate in with a family member, a child, sign up on the website. I can send the link here once I find it so that you all can sign up for it. Next slide. And these are some photos again of some of the work that we've been doing with Manners and just being able to assist the youth. That's something that we've also been focused on is trying to get the youth involved in farming and getting them excited about farming. So this is something that's very near and dear to Dr. Holmes's heart is continuing to build those seeds of curiosity in the youth. And I believe that is it. I think the next slide is just an email for me. If you are curious about some of the programming that we have going on, or you would like to partner in any capacity in anything that we have going on, that is my email address. I would be more than happy to connect you. And I'll send the link here to sign up for the youth farm in the chat here shortly. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ingrid. Again, any questions into the chat and check that out for the links as well. And we're going to move right on to our last lightning presenter. So I would like to invite Andrea to go ahead and unmute, and I will pass the microphone to you.
Hey everyone. It's good to see and hear from so many familiar faces. My name is Andrea Clark. I'm a food system planner at KC Healthy Kids and support policy initiatives of the Greater Kansas City Food Policy Coalition. I'm here today to talk about a regional food system partnerships planning and design project that we just finished in January, doing a regional food system assessment and action plan in the greater Kansas City area. Next slide. The goal of the project was to identify equitable and sustainable strategies to connect producers and consumers to expand new and existing markets and improve community food security. We worked on this in a couple of ways. Like I said, first year doing a food system assessment, and the second year working on an action plan. I'll talk a little bit more about the action plan. Next slide. The project area was identified as a 100-mile radius around the Kansas City region to include rural producers that are selling in urban markets and dealing with some of the same issues related to food access and food security as urban issues as well. Over the 2-year project, we had focus groups with 22 focus groups with 218 people in our 8 priority counties. These counties are where we had all the partners had existing relationships. It also represented a diversity of kind of geography and communities where we had some dense urban areas, suburban areas, small towns, and more rural areas. And about 80% of our focus group participants said they were likely to collaborate with other organizations that they met through this process. Next slide. The action plan that we created in the second year was based on information and data that we gathered through the focus groups and some data collection through surveys, as well as pulling together data from a number of state and federal sources. That assessment led to identifying strategies and goals, examples or case studies, identifying partners. And a lot of that was done in our focus groups from stakeholders in those local communities, as well as our advisory board that represented folks in different parts of the food system in all different communities across the project area. The way that our action plan breaks down is that we have 8 goals or milestones toward a shared vision for our local food system of being equitable and sustainable or resilient. We identify 27 strategies or ways to achieve the goals that we outlined. For each of those strategies, we identify a model that gives us an example of what this strategy looks like when put into action. Some of them are local, some of them are from other communities. And then we also highlight some key partners or groups to collaborate with in implementing these strategies. We know that there's a whole lot more models and partners out there. These lists aren't meant to be exhaustive, but a starting point for thinking about how we can work together and put this work into action. The next slide highlights just the 8 goals. I won't get into each of them because we would be here for a very long time. But we have a goal to increase community food security, especially for medically necessary food and culturally preferred food. We have a goal to support food system workers, whether this is, grocery retail workers, meat packing plant workers, local food producers, to support them so they have a sustainable livelihood and sustainable business. We want to educate consumers to buy local and connect them to where their food comes from. We want to increase the awareness of food system careers, whether that's growing local food, doing some kind of value added food business, providing a service in the value chain that helps get the food from the farm to the consumer, managing a farmer's market, whatever that looks like. We want to make sure that kids, youth, adults, all have access to education and resources to help them pursue those careers. We want to increase land access, affordable land access for urban and rural producers as the cost of land increases. We want to continue to develop our local food infrastructure. So again, from harvesting the food to getting it to market, all of those steps along the way that need to be in place, all of the infrastructure and services. We want to continue to invest in and develop that infrastructure. The 7th goal is to support farm to market. So again, to create new and expand existing markets for farmers, especially into wholesale markets or institutional markets. And then the last is to just build the capacity of the regional food system by having a resource hub with information about grant funding, maybe access to technical assistance like grant writing, information about other organizations, the projects that they're working on, how to get in touch with them, maybe job postings, some really basic data that everyone needs for when they're filling out their grant applications or trying to identify, gaps or opportunities within the food system. So these are some of the things that we will be including in our application for the next Regional Food System Partnerships Grant, which is the Implementation and Expansion Grant. We're working with about 10 to 12 partner organizations right now working on that application for May. So we'll be putting some of these goals and strategies into action if that gets awarded, and continuing to coordinate implementation efforts across the region in Kansas and Missouri. If you want to go to the next slide, it's the last slide that has contact information. And Clara put the link to our project webpage that has all of our project data, the assessment report, our action plan. There's a full length digital action plan or a shorter summary that's also available in some other languages. Reach out if you have any questions. We'll be having more information soon available about how to get involved in some implementation working groups. Yeah, look forward to answering any questions you might have.
Thanks, Andrea. I did not see any questions in the chat go by, although I may have missed some. So we have a couple of minutes if anyone has any questions for any of our presenters. All right. Well, if you do come up with a question for any of our lightning presenters, again, feel free to drop that in the chat or contact them directly. So with that, I'm going to move right into the long-awaited overview of our Community Roundtable report. I don't have time today to go into all the details. None of us have. So we're just going to kind of take the first pass at it. And so for those of you that may not have heard about our community roundtables or what we did, is as part of our Regional Food System Partnership Grant, we did a series of World Cafe style roundtable discussions. We did about 18 different roundtables, most of them in person. There were 4 done virtually, so you can see the list of the different groups or locations that we did those different roundtable discussions with. So we tried really hard to cover as much of the state geographically as we could, knowing that we can't get to every town across the whole state. At the roundtables, we asked 3 primary questions. We asked, what do you want the future of your local food system to look like? What are the unsolved challenges of your local food system? And what are your needs in order to make progress? And so what I'm going to share with you is kind of the summary of all of that data that we collected. I've spent the last several months, just combing through all of that data and kind of synthesizing it into something that is, concise yet reflective of all the great ideas that were shared. So when we look at what do Kansans want their local food systems to look like in the future, we boiled it down to these 3 overarching statements. The first one is local, fresh, nutritious foods are available and accessible to all community members through a wide range of market outlets. And that was probably the #1 topic when it came to looking towards the future, is Just that desire for more diversity and more opportunities, both from the producer side of things, wanting more market outlet opportunities, and from the consumer side of things, wanting there to be local food available in all the places that they like to go get food, whether it's a grocery or a restaurant, at schools, so on and so forth. The next statement states profitable, diversified farms using environmentally sustainable practices are functioning within a healthy, equitable economic ecosystem and meeting the demand for a wide range of fresh, healthy foods in their local and regional communities. So this one really focuses on that desire to have lots of different types of farms and farming at scale that meets the demand locally. And then the last piece of this is effective collaborative networks and systems that make sure that everyone can have access to the knowledge, funding, and resources that they need. And as you can kind of see throughout all of this is, the idea that everyone in our Kansas communities has local, fresh, nutritious food available to them. When we started looking at the unsolved challenges facing the Kansas food system, we again summarize it into kind of 3 big picture ideas. The first one is food access and food insecurity. And one of the things that our final report will look at is, the ways that we are similar and the ways that we are different when it comes to our rural and urban spaces relating to access to food and food insecurity. So one of the interesting things that we found is that there's so much more in common about our experiences with struggling to access food across the whole state, no matter what size community we live in, than there are differences, but we do have some unique experiences depending on the size of your community. Capacity for food system entrepreneurship, so looking at across the state, there are lots of challenges that existing and new or aspiring farms and small businesses face, and there's not a whole lot of capacity to help them address those challenges. So just looking at ways to build that capacity is one of our unsolved challenges. And then the last piece of that is consumer knowledge, awareness, and skills related to food and food systems. So that understanding that, consumers need to purchase local foods, but may not have the awareness, knowledge, or skills to really get involved in a meaningful way. And then the last question, looking at what Kansans need in order to make progress. I actually have 2 slides on this. The first 3 big ideas are that ongoing connection, collaboration, and communication, ways for everyone to stay connected and work together more effectively. The need for financial resources and a variety of different types of financial resources that serve different sectors of the food system. Overarching awareness, education, and engagement around local food systems, including having a shared vision and broad community support for the value of local food. The other 3 areas focused in on human capital, and a lot of that focus was on paid positions as well as reliable and trained labor for both farms and businesses. Basically, more people doing more kinds of work all across the state and all across the food system. Technical assistance and resources, this kind of gets back to that capacity challenge. So the knowledge and technical assistance to help farms and businesses deal with the challenges that they face, including sustainability, mitigating risk, and a lot of that risk comes down to environmental factors, the challenges of our Kansas environment, navigating regulations, and ways to increase capacity. And then last but absolutely not least is the need for policy regulations and government support. And so a lot of the comments were looking at the desire to have our government leaders really engaged with our local food system needs in meaningful ways, especially more local leaders. It's not just a state legislature situation, but it's in the city and county, our local school districts, as well as at the state level. And part of that is addressing policies and regulations that create barriers. So that is definitely not all of that there is to know. I don't have time to go into more detail. I could talk about this for hours and hours, as all of our presenters could. So if you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to answer those. The content for the report will be going to our communications staff shortly, to get the final layout and made all pretty and ready for public dissemination here later, hopefully by the middle of the summer. So again, I'm happy to take any questions. I do want to also kind of throw out there, taking a lot of this information that we've learned from the roundtables, we are working on putting together a state local food summit that will be held on Wednesday, August 28th in Wichita. So this is kind of your save the date notice for that. I know some of you are already on the planning committee for that and know about that date, but I did want to share that with you as well. And if you want to kind of stay updated with our final report from the roundtables, or to know what's coming with the State Local Food Summit, go ahead. I know some of you, again, are new to this town hall. So we encourage you to sign up for our email newsletter. We send one newsletter a month, and that'll be a great way to stay connected with all of those things. Okay. So with that, I am going to turn it over for discussion and updates that anyone would like to share. So if you have questions for me, for any of our presenters that you just thought of, or if you have something that you want to share with the whole group that your organization is doing, I'll invite you to unmute and share or drop it in the chat. So I see Shelly put in the chat that she asking about the cost for the local food summit in August. We do not quite have that finalized yet. It's going to be higher than 0 and less than 100. So that's as tight as I'm willing to go at this point. I think it's probably going to be, in the $40 to $50 range, but I don't want to swear to that yet. Okay. I see a question from Abdullah as far as who answered the questions for the survey. Are you asking that question to me, or are you asking that to one of the other presenters? I see Pantaleon Flores said that KDA has started notifying equipment only grant applicants from the RFSI grants. So that is exciting. So the who answered the questions to the survey, the roundtables, we had about 400 people across the state that attended, that represented a wide range of different food system sectors and communities. So I will have a lot of that information in the final report. Let's see. Aaron Davis, I know we talked about sharing some of the farm to school things. Are you prepared for that?
Yes, I am. I was waiting to see if anyone else wanted to share before I chimed in. Yes, I'm Erin Davis. I'm with the Department of Education in Child Nutrition and Wellness, and myself and Barb Depew work with local foods within our child nutrition programs. We work a lot with grants, and so one of the current grants that we have is offering a variety of activities to promote local foods across the state within our child nutrition programs. But specifically, something exciting that we have going on right now is our Farm to ECE Institute. So we are working with Nebraska and Missouri Departments of Education, and then various stakeholders across all 3 states to plan this institute it's a year-long program that will take different teams from each state and help them pursue and expand their farm to ECE activities. So the teams could look like a food service director, the executive director, a teacher, a community member. So we really want to have diverse teams to help the sustainability of these programs. They'll come to a retreat in Nebraska City for 2 to 3 days, and then work with a coach the following year throughout the program through October of 25 to help them pursue their farm to ECE activities. So we're really excited about that. Applications are open now and open until April 30th. If you have an early childcare area that you think would be fitting for this or is really interested in farm to ECE, I can put some more information in the chat on my contact information and where they can find the application. They do have to participate in the CACFP or the NSLP child nutrition programs to be eligible. But other than that, that's really the only requirement, and serve an ECE population pre-K or under. So we're really excited about that. And we're looking at locations to host the Farm to School Institute, which Kansas will be hosting in 2025. This will likely be the end of May in 2025 in either Wabunsee or Riley counties is kind of the area we're looking. So more information to come. Just wanted to share that piece. Thanks.
Thanks, Erin. Couple other questions in the chat. Monica is looking for funding for rural Clay County, Missouri farmers market manager salary and is looking for ideas for resources to chase for that. So you can, if you have any ideas for her, feel free to send that her direction. Her email is in the chat. Yes, Andrea, we don't have our final report on the website yet. It's still getting formatted into, all the pretty layout and all of the required logos and good stuff like that. So this is kind of your sneak preview. Anyone else have any upcoming events or things that they would like to share? While you're thinking, I will share that our next town hall is Wednesday, July 24th at 11 a.m. Because I'd set it up so that the registration works for all 3 town halls. If you registered for today's town hall, you should already be registered for the July and the October town halls. And that those of you that use Outlook calendar or things like that, it should be on your calendar even. If you downloaded it. So if you want to share the town hall with others that might want to sign up, feel free to send them this link or things like that. Okay. Ryle posted in the chat that the National Rural Grocery Summit is happening in Alabama in June. Ryle, do you want to unmute and share about that?
Sure. Yeah, so we are hosting the National Rural Grocery Summit this summer in Montgomery, Alabama. It's on June 24th and 25th, not 24th and 35th, as I put in the chat. We are partnering with Auburn University's Hunger Solutions Institute to host the summit in Alabama. This is the first time that we are hosting outside of Kansas, and we're excited to be expanding our reach to a new part of the country while also bringing some of our core partners along the way. Early bird registration ends on Tuesday, and grocers, while early bird registration is happening, grocers receive free registration up to 2 representatives from their store. So if you know of any grocers that might be interested, please forward this opportunity along. We do currently have some funding from the Sunflower Foundation to support travel costs for Kansans to get to the summit. So there's an application for that. I'll put that in the chat as well if anyone is interested. And I think that's all. The agenda is on the website. We've got all of our breakout sessions posted there. Keynotes will be announced over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned and we're looking forward to it.
Thanks, Ryle. Let's see. Anyone else have anything that they would like to share? Okay. Well, hearing nothing, yep, Janella, do you want to go ahead? I see your hand.
I'm sorry, I'm just not fast enough or something. I don't know
You're fine.
what the deal is. Hey, Ingrid did a beautiful job, and I wanted to thank her publicly for her hard work and for working with me. Number one, needs to be a commendation. But I wanted to remind everybody that we do have our quarterly meeting on Friday at WSU. I can put that link in the what is it, in the chat, and you're welcome to register. We do have a Zoom. It will be hybrid. So we do have Zoom. A lot of what we're doing and a lot of the people that we are serving right now, 63% of our membership are urban farmers. We no longer call them gardeners because they are farming. And so we want them to know about your services. If you come, you can talk to some of the people that are attending. We don't have a free slot, for you to present, but I would love to meet any of you and maybe add you to our quarterly meeting in July, which will be held out here in beautiful Graham County, if we continue to get some rain like we did this morning. But I would love for you to join us at any time that we're having any of our events and to help promote some of our events and work with some of our farmers. Thank you.
Thanks, Janella. Okay, so we've got just a couple minutes left, and I want to again evaluate what we've been doing and see how things are working from that standpoint. We do take a look at these evaluations when we plan our next town hall. So have a couple questions that I'd encourage you to answer if you can. The first one is just, did you learn something new today? Yes, no, or I'm not sure. It's perfectly allowed if you're not sure. What topics were valuable to you today? And so that one you can choose as many as work for you that you want to respond to. How many people will you share something with from today's town hall? And then the last one, if you have suggestions for speakers or topics in our future town halls, go ahead and drop those into the chat. So I really appreciate all of you taking the time again today to spend an hour with us and hearing from a lot of our great partners with what they've got going on and learning more about what's happening in the Kansas local food system.
And I just want to thank Londa, Dr. Nwadike, for putting together our town halls. I know this might be the last one she joins us on, so it's been really informative, and thank you for all that you do.
Thanks, Londa.
Thanks, everybody.